I think it was a disaster. I think it was like maybe the worst debate I've ever seen in my entire life.
I do think people feel like that we are confronting a crisis.
There were going to be discussion about whether he should continue.
At first it was shocking, then it was scary, then it was sad, and by the end it was absurd. Is the riskiest path sticking with Joe Biden, or is the riskiest path saying we want someone else? And anybody who says that that is not a tough call right now is full of
Everywhere I've traveled around the world for the past 4 years, and it's been a lot of countries, people are like, so Joe Biden, how is he? You're like, well, I think he has dementia. He certainly does. Like everybody knows, because they have, I can't remember, the internet. And it has video on it, and it takes about 15 seconds to determine the leader of the most powerful country in the world with this mass nuclear arsenal involved in 2 simultaneous wars doesn't know what day it is.
So President Biden had a horrible debate. We all knew that. We knew things were bad, but it seems like the media is just having this total meltdown about the situation as if the average American didn't already know. Is it that they just found out? Or maybe it's part of the plan.
Both however, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Have you ever heard about humiliation ritual? I think that's what we are looking at. The humiliation ritual, the idea is to put somebody in such a negative light. And after you've done such a thing, you can kind of use that as blackmail against them to control them or even to get what you want. So you might see men doing really weird stuff in Hollywood, people just doing things. And it's not always like these people are evil in and of themselves. And I think there is a system behind the scene who is manipulating and using people and getting them to go whichever direction they want. So some people feel as if that what's happening to President Biden right now is somewhat of a humiliation ritual. And the whole idea is that they wanted this so that they can get what they want.
And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji. There is so much at stake in this moment, in freedom and equality. But these extremists, as they say, they not like us.
No, they not.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Long before she met Doug Emhoff, she dated some prominent men, including in 2001, former talk show host Montel Williams. Back then, he was the famous one and had to introduce her to the paparazzi.
Kamala Harris.
Now the whole world knows who she is.
I have spoken to some top Democrats who say that there would actually be relief if he were to step down. And one person said to me, look, everyone's counting out Kamala Harris because right now her poll numbers are below President Biden's. But if she were to be the one to carry this torch into November, there could be a method of reintroducing her to the country that could be effective with independents, with moderates, with those critical suburban women that are necessary for winning the White House.
NBC's Kristen Welker is floating the idea that should Joe Biden decide to step down from the presidential race, that could create an avenue in which Kamala Harris, his vice president, is reintroduced to American voters who get to decide who wins the general election.
I think the media is just playing with our minds. They're acting like they didn't know what we all knew. They're acting like they didn't realize that Biden was in this condition.
There is widespread panic among Democrats. I got a number of text messages this evening, Democrats reaching out to say this is difficult to watch. Where does this go from here?
And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic.
The reality is they deserve to be honest with the American people now. Who is actually running the country? Who is in charge of the United States of America? After last night's debate, I don't think there's a single person at home who saw that who believes it's Joe Biden, because it's not. But we deserve a government that tells us the truth. And I think one of the concerning questions for right now, not even the election, I'm talking about today, the next few months leading up to the election, is who is actually leading the United States of America? The Democrats and the White House have not offered a clear answer to that question. And if they tell us that's Joe Biden, we now know that is a lie. And Americans, I think, demand the truth because our security determines and depends on it.
And what we're about to see right now is Tucker Carlson is going to explain this and expose the nature of their supposed reactions as if, you guys knew very well in the condition of Biden. So this is not a shocker to some of you. So let's take a listen to that.
But I watched CNN today, and they had the presidential debate, the U.S. presidential debate. And maybe some of you saw it. And if you did, well, it was amazing. It was amazing on every level. But what was especially amazing was afterward, they went to the panel of assembled Democratic operatives posing as journalists, and all of them were like shocked to discover that Joe Biden has dementia. Like they couldn't believe it. What? Oh my gosh! He's non-compos mentis! No way! Are you serious? And I'm thinking to myself, what year is it? 2024-ish? Middle-aged people identify with that? Okay, 2024, people are saying. It was 2019 that I heard from a friend of mine who was friends with his sister, Val, that the family was very upset because Joe has dementia and he's running for president. And, well, I said this on TV, by the way, at the time, and was denounced as a racist or something. I mean, everything, in the United States, like, that's just like the all-purpose term for shut up. Racist! I was like, I think he's white. Shut up, racist! Okay, anyway, But his sister had told a friend of mine, like an actual friend of mine, one of my neighbors, that the family was upset and that his son, sadly, had passed away. By the way, not in Iraq fighting a war for freedom, but of cancer. I don't think he's aware of that. But sad, and that the family was convinced he needed to kind of get it out of his system by running for president. But of course, no one's going to like make Joe Biden the nominee because we had Pete Buttigieg for that. Who's, now it's a joke, but at the time they were like, people are gonna love Pete Buttigieg. He's incompetent, but he's gay. Great! And then people were like, what? No. So they had to go to Joe Biden, and he actually became the nominee and then somehow became the president. But it was obvious the whole time that he had no idea where he was, and that it was cruel, and that his grasping, horrible wife who like poses as a doctor was pushing this so she could go to state dinners. And everyone knew this. Like, there's not one person who didn't know this. And when you travel outside our borders, you know, people are always so nice about other people's countries. Like, they don't attack you to your face. And obviously, I'm the most American person who's ever lived, and I love my country, and I'm going to die there, and would die for it without even thinking. That's how much, and I mean that. So everyone wants to be polite to you about your country. And when, like, if I ever went to New Zealand, I wouldn't mention Jacinda Ardern or what, you know what I mean? That would be rude. I wouldn't say like, oh, that retarded girl with the teeth, is she here? You know, I wouldn't. That would be, no, I wouldn't. Because that's not something a guest says, right? You're in someone else's, you know, you're having dinner at someone's house, and like the food is appalling. Oh, it's so good. You know what I mean? But even given the high standards of politeness offered to foreigners in foreign lands, everywhere I've traveled around the world for the past 4 years, and there's been a lot of countries, people are like, so Joe Biden, how is he? And you're like, well, I think he has dementia. He certainly does. Like everybody knows, because they have, I can't remember, the internet. And it has video on it, and it takes about 15 seconds to determine the leader of the most powerful country in the world with this mass nuclear arsenal involved in 2 simultaneous wars doesn't know what day it is. And that's really scary. But if you come to the United States and you're in the media envelope, this like fake world created by these disinformation specialists who run our media, that's never mentioned at all. It's like everyone pretend, it would literally be like everyone pretending Jacinda Ardern is like a legitimate person, which they may have done in New Zealand. I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Where people say, oh, that's the prime minister. What? It's ridiculous, actually. But everyone sort of plays along like it's not happening. And this is the whole Emperor's New Clothes story is based on this phenomenon, which is a very human phenomenon. But for the media today to be like, wow, we just got the diagnosis. This is shocking. He can't run for president. Kind of either they're really stupid, like too stupid to breathe unaided, or they're liars. They're truly dishonest. They're hiding the obvious from you. And I'm betting on the latter, but even more amazing was the response to that. So remember that our media are not just observers of reality or describers of reality, people who bring you the story first on the scene. No, they're the gatekeepers to reality. You don't know what the world looks like except through them. Like they are the pipeline through which all information flows. And in the United States, they're political actors. They work for a political party, in effect, if not officially. Like they all work for the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party, and I think this is probably true here, has one mission this season, which is to save democracy, which is gravely in peril, you may have heard, by Vladimir Putin, who is ending our democracy, somehow. And don't laugh. What are you Putin lovers? Anyway, yeah, okay. That's fine, I don't care. It's not my president. You can love anyone you want, as far as I'm concerned, because I believe in, the autonomy of man. You can have your own opinions. But the point is, in my country, and probably here, the self-described mission of everyone in the media is to save democracy, and democracy, simply defined, is the idea that the people own their country. It's their country, and they hire people to represent them. But fundamentally, they are shareholders in this enterprise. They're owners. They're not serfs. They're not renting it. This isn't a rental car. It's your car. You change the oil in it because it belongs to you, right? And that's what citizenship is. And so in a democracy, you don't have to do everything the majority wants every moment, but over time, if what you're doing bears no relationship to what the majority wants, then you know for a fact it's not democracy. And you can try to convince people of things. You can say, well, you want this, but I think you should want that, and here's why. But you can't ignore them, or else it's not a democracy. It's an oligarchy. And you see yourself as the owner, and they're the tenants, the serfs, the renters, and you can just do whatever you want, and it doesn't matter what they think. So that's the most anti-democratic attitude possible, right? That attitude is the enemy of democracy. And all of a sudden today, these defenders of democracy are like, well, obviously Joe Biden's got Alzheimer's, and he's super unpopular, he can't win, therefore we need to replace him. And it's like, wait a second, he was already elected in the biggest landslide ever. I don't know if you knew that. Like, he got over 1 billion votes, in our country. He got more votes than Black Jesus. And because he's just so unbelievably popular, people just love Joe Biden. It was a landslide, literally a landslide in 2020. And that gives him the authority to do whatever he wants, whether you like it or not, because so many of your neighbors voted for him. You don't know their names. But it happened, okay? It happened. It's sort of like COVID deaths. You never actually met anybody who died of it, but millions did die. Everybody voted for Joe Biden except you, so shut up. So he has this mandate, this moral mandate to do literally whatever he wants, import 30 million people illegally, and you're not allowed to say anything about it, racist. And yet, at the same time, and then Democratic primary voters, just like the other day in our system, the members of the party vote for their nominee. He's elected by his own party. People actually went to the polls and cast a ballot for him. But all of a sudden, because he might not win against the orange man, we need to take his job away from him by force and let the donors put someone in there who can beat the orange man, because that's democracy. And that made me start to think for the first time, maybe we're defining the word democracy a little differently. Maybe you've got a different understanding of what that means. Maybe you think democracy is when we do exactly what you and 8 of your friends want. That's what you think it is. Whereas I think democracy is when you do the will of the majority over time.
Exactly. I'm going to close up by simply saying this. They're trying to play us like we are foolish, okay? The scripture says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. So don't let the fool play with your mind, because if he does, you will start imitating his own behavior. In other words, you become foolish too. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. So if you play the games with the fools that are playing with your minds, right, you strengthen them in their conceit. So I think what we are seeing is there's a lot of games being played here in the mainstream media. There's a lot of dishonesty. It's very obvious. They wanted this debate. They wanted to have this humiliation ritual, if I may call it. They wanted to put him on the stage, Joe Biden on the stage, make him look bad, and go completely hysterical about it, as if we didn't know. And after they've done that, they got what they want, reaction from the people, and we step back and say, oh, it's true, Biden is not in a good condition. Then they can elect and select whoever it is that they had in mind to perpetuate whatever it is that they wanted. It's very obvious what's going on here, and I think it's foolish for us to fall for it. I fell for it. I thought Biden is in bad condition. We knew that. You don't think the media actually knew this? This is part of the plan, friends. And I want to close up by reading the same thing that I started with. Franklin Roosevelt says, in politics, nothing happens by accident, friend. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. Much more could be said. Link in the description below. Like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more. Have a good one. Bye.